Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And today, Bill and I have been talking about what we're going to discuss today, and we're going to talk about truth and time. And I think you're going to find this to be a very interesting subject. Bill, why don't you lead us down the path here?
Well, Tom, you and I know how the communication is being used, and this is a communication show, how it's being used to hijack a person's thinking. And the word hijack is a little unsettling to even hear as, you know, as a label or diagnosis, but basically it's to direct a person to confirm their bias, direct a person to create a world that a person can live in, that other people think and believe the same things they do. And we've seen it on Facebook. We've seen it on social media. You know, somebody posted recently, Tom, if any of people that are friends here are Democrats, please unfriend me. I mean, a person said that, you know, please unfriend me. And I'm thinking, well, she just wants more of the bubble. She just wants more of people to be, you know, in that space, in that environment. So there's no time or no willingness to find truth or perspective or perception, or take the time to do a little research to say, well, where is the issue sitting? No, they don't want to do that. They want to confirm the experience.
Right.
And that's where it gets unsettling.
They're preferring stories, information that confirms their biases, right?
That's right. That's right.
And, you know, it's interesting, Bill, because just a few hours before we are recording this episode, a common Facebook friend of ours, yours and mine,
yes,
made a post that really speaks to this. And I'm really paraphrasing. His name is Shane. I'm not going to really out him here because I didn't ask his permission, but he posted that he's been off Facebook for a while, and he was, you know, seeking some peace from all of the large volume of posts that are made that are, you know, as he says it, you know, that cling to demonstratively false information, or is information with tenuous underpinnings at best, basically, or even outright lies. That he's saying he's shocking to him that more people are not first doing just a little bit of checking on the source of the information, where it's coming from. Is it actually true or not? If it tends to confirm their biases, they're all too quick to share it, repost it, like it, comment on it. And he's disappointed in that. And I can understand his feelings, but, you know, I guess my assessment of it is people don't want to do that much work to really determine if they see something that they agree with. Do they care as much about finding out if it's really true? I don't think so.
Yeah, even some of the sources that are more reliable than other sources, whether it's PolitiFact, Snopes, or whatever, you know, liar, liar, pants on fire is, you know, the worst rating you can get. And then what winds up happening in the face of that validation piece, people will say, well, that's just their bias. It's like, no, it's the truth in the middle of the argument. It's not the experience. And the brain wants to find things that it's familiar with rather than it's things that are outside of its view set. And we did a whole show or two on, what does it take to move the Overton window, which is this window of perception towards your point of view. And that's the thing that's really kind of unsettling, is that you've got to have time to actually to see, is this really good for the country? Or is it just good for one person? Or is it good for one company? Or is it good for one industry? So that's at least a little bit of my thought around that. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it really seems it may not really be that apparent when looking at the title of this episode, Truth and Time, that time really is not an ally of truth. Time is almost an enemy of truth in many ways. That
spend time to get it.
Yeah, you've got to put time into finding out if something is true. And I think, we all should be striving to do that before we all too quickly repost things. And actually, I think, the commander-in-chief, the occupant of the Oval Office right now is as guilty of this as anybody. He's gotten in hot water, in the eyes of at least half of America many times by retweeting something that ends up not being in alignment with truth. And all he ever will do is, there's outrage. People complain, his staff points it out to him, and he just deletes the tweet if that's the case. He never apologizes or accepts responsibility. He just tries to erase it.
Yeah, well, I didn't say that. When did I say that? No, I said that was a long time ago. Yeah, Mr. President, was yesterday. Oh yeah, the news cycle has already moved. No, they're on to this now. This is what everybody's talking about. I'm just going to weigh in on this and watch all the mice scurry when I do that. Oh, look at that. They just weighed in on this. It's like, it's the elephant brain being tapped, but because if I want to have my higher function thinking through the process of the scientific method, you have to measure it, and then you need a peer to review it and do the same experiment to see if they got the same result to validate what you just proved to be true. Now, this is something that's really unsettling, Tom, that I'm going to share with you, is the funding to validate a scientific study is literally non-existent. So nobody wants to spend any time doing the second experiment or the third experiment to validate, to see if what this person just said in the news media. Let me give an example of that. Chocolate can reduce heart disease. Chocolate can increase your intimacy chances. Wine can help the heart. Now, those are things that made it into the news media, but there was no time to find out if they were really true, because here's what the research said, and they cherry picked it just so this little bit of kind of sexy information, marketing and branding, goes on top of the article. And of course, the news media picks it up and says, well, this one, scientists say that this takes place. Scientists say that this. No, scientists don't say this. This one person did an experiment that wasn't validated. And you didn't take the time to check it out because, what was the other one about farts? There's all these different scientific, and it's like, oh my gosh, we still get calls around that. Oh, It's, there was a TV station that, came and checked in about it. So very, very unsettling, very, very unsettling. There's no time for the rigor of truth. The rigor of truth takes a little bit of us to take time and to check into where truth lies. Is it just a bias that we're doing, or is it something that is a reality? So it's exasperating. As you can see, my voice is actually moving into exasperation because it's really hard to empathize with that.
It is, and boy, it really makes sense though, since it takes time to really, confirm if something is true or not, and people don't generally take that amount of time. It's really easy to see how truth can get hijacked and how marketing messages can stick, because they activate something in the brain that you either identify with or you're vehemently opposed to, one way or the other, and you react to it. But reacting is not in alignment with truth either. So
let's do a quick gift for everybody, all of our listenings here, so we can kind of stick the landing here, because we need to communicate our way back to truth. Okay.
All right.
So let's get some tools on our side. 2 important emotions that are needed right away: curious and skeptical. You need them both. I feel curious about what's being said. I feel skeptical about what's being said. You need them both, because curious puts you in the place of an observation, an observer. It's sort of, I feel curious about the BS I just heard. I feel curious about it. I'm not going to inflame myself around it, because this is a communication show. Because I just worked myself up, you just worked ourselves up, and notice our fuel in our body just got like totally depleted. And it does, because as soon as you get on a rant, we get depleted, and our nervous systems were not built for the speed in which information is coming to us. Let me give you a great example of this one. Remember, even though this is still happening today, remember in the distant past when the mail would come in the mailbox, sure, and there would be this packet, a little packet of a big packet of things, and they were little mailers, little
coupons or promotions.
Coupons and promotions in one envelope, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I would watch my mom and my dad flip through these things, and they would keep some things and throw out what they didn't want. Of course, next week there was going to be another one of these things.
Right.
Pull it out, throw it out. Pull them out, throw it out. Every day in the news media, in our inboxes, in our email things, on Twitter, on Facebook, we are literally having that same envelope.
Wow.
Every 2 hours, maybe one.
I never thought of it that way, but you're right.
You've got to sort through what you need and what you don't, what you need and what you don't. There's no time to buy or think about anything because you're sorting through. So, Shane, I've taken a break from social media. I've only looked at the things that are important communications to me, is literally saying, I'm taking a diet from being overstimulated and mailered and branded to and marketed to and sold and branded and marketed and sold. This is what the cannibal capitalism looks and feels like that we're in right now. It's, how do I gobble up as much as I can, and can I get there first? We're all exhausted.
Yeah.
We're tired. We're tired of our government doing it to us, for sure. We're tired of it. I mean, I'm thinking about me and my peers. We're exhausted. It's just like, it doesn't even matter who the other candidate is. It's, I want this guy out of here because I am tired of hearing him front and centered. I don't want to hear him front and centered anymore. And
Yeah.
guess what? Is he really going away, or is people going? No, but who's the next loudmouth that's going to come along and do something like this? All right, so let's get ourselves out of this, okay? Step one, observe. Step two, either you're applying curiosity or you apply skepticism.
Okay.
Okay, now let's reduce the conflict. Is it the need for information? Is this information going to provide me support? Or is it just designed just to inflame me? I feel curious. Is this valuable, or is it just going to trigger or designed to trigger a belief or an act or my emotion? Second, skeptical. Does it meet my need for trust on the way to truth? Am I trusting the source? Am I trusting the researcher? Is this a thoughtful piece? Is it, or is the person just giving me the soundbite? Some of the comedians are actually doing a better job right now because they get the 20-minute show, hour show. They get time to actually do research and make it funny and make it digestible. And promote a perspective. They're actually the new news media. I mean, it's really weird that I'm actually sharing that with you.
No, I agree with it though. I think for a long time, a lot of these comedy shows have been responsible for actually giving more, unvarnished news and truth than a lot of the official news networks and shows.
Right.
Jon Stewart was always credited with that. And to be honest, if you got in a room with him and you wanted to have a debate about any issues, he wasn't just a mouthpiece behind the desk with a microphone on these shows. He knew his stuff. And that's actually why he's gone to Congress to advocate, for instance, on behalf of the first responders from 9/11, and all that sort of stuff. Interesting.
Very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful when you get somebody looking at things deeply, taking the time to find truth. So we've got to do a better job of picking the need that's going to serve us rather than getting reacted. So I reposted a piece on Facebook, and delightfully, Facebook put a little note saying this video edit, even though it was really good, it was an American person talking about the map creating racism. Okay.
Yeah.
The name of the person that was reposting this was called Foot Soapbox, and it's a Russian propaganda piece. Now, after I posted, I'm going like, well, I'm not taking this down. I'm going to literally comment that this is a Russian propaganda piece, even though it's got truth to it and it's been edited to support racial divisions in the United States. Check in and use curiosity and make sure that your body doesn't get inflamed about this, but also realize that on a scale of 1 to 10, they're trying to divide us. Like it's an 8 on them trying to divide us. They're trying to stoke racial division, and this is what this thing is for. Now, it was amazing, the feedback. It was like, you just called the system out on itself. I'm going like, well, yeah, that's what you do when you want to talk about truth. You got to say, this is where it's coming from, even though the content was pretty good. The motive was very dark and very shadowy. It was to divide us.
Yeah.
And I put it in there going like, this is a device. So if anybody is sharing that, which a couple people did, they went and put their comments in and said, this is good, but this is also let him know that people are trying to divide us out there.
Very interesting.
And yes, so we are going to do it. We got to do a better job of observing. We just got to do a better job of naming the feelings that are going to help us, and then get to the needs that are doing. So when you hear this example, Tom, what kind of comes up inside you? Because we've got to slow down to really capture or recapture truth. So
I agree. You have to slow down, and you have to be considerate of not only the fact that people have a lot of biases one way or the other, but that we have been manipulated to divide us. And that's what I think people forget. And that's honestly, Bill, that's why it's so actually heartening to me to see, when you mentioned a few minutes ago that, we get to the point where it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican, we just want to get this guy out type of thing. There's a lot of very strong messages coming out in support of that, and more people that are lifelong Republicans coming out about this with Trump. We know, and we've talked about the Lincoln Project. There's another group of Republicans that just started a new super PAC, and they're doing the same thing. They're former George W. Bush administration and campaign officials that launched a new super PAC called 43 Alumni for Biden. 43 really? Being 43rd President George W. Bush, right? 43 Alumni for Biden. I'm going to have a link to an article about this in the blog post. But
good.
They are looking to unite and mobilize the community of historically Republican voters who are really dismayed and disappointed with the damage done to our nation by the Donald Trump presidency. And they are actually not just advocating that Trump is bad. They're saying, please vote for Biden. And because we need to get rid of Trump. I mean, again, they're putting America over party, and they're really putting party over loyalty to one individual that's hijacked the party. And that's really heartening to see. And I'm hoping that messages from them, because some of the recent ones from the Lincoln Project have been very powerful, I think, in not feeding into confirmation bias, but doing a good job of illuminating certain truths, or at least getting people to, consider some different beliefs and maybe get out of some of those beliefs that are locking them down. So anyway, it's very exciting to me to see, and it helps cut across this truth and time thing a little bit.
I think so. All these different videos, short videos that they're doing to condense information, to really market and promote truth about here's what he's doing, here's the impact. Here's what he's doing, here's the impact. And it's a counter marketing spin that and people that are fans of Trump, they go they're going to follow him because they're so invested in how they feel when they listen to him. And they don't know that these small messages have gotten into them purchasing him as the leader of truth, instead of, I'm not sure if that's fully true because he keeps changing things. In fact, the virus didn't go away. We're the leader of the disaster. We're leading that. We are number one. And we are great again. We're great at not having a government that supports us all. So I think next time, Tom, kind of to stick the landing here a little bit is that for our listeners is to be ready to train your mind to be more in the position of observation, be able to check in on what your needs are and check your emotions also. And that might get us there, going forward. So
I think that would be a difficult thing for a lot of people to do, but very worthwhile to discuss. Don't you agree?
Yes, for sure. All right.
All right.
More to come about how to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth Podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.